How is it going, fellow Detroit Red Wings fans? So, most hockey seasons have wrapped up. The Detroit Red Wings wrapped up their season about a month ago. With that being said, it's time for probably our favorite video of the year. It's time to take a look at the top 15 Red Wings prospects. So for rules of how we are valuing players, what a player has done will be valued slightly more than the potential of another player. Meaning if one player has the potential to be an elite goal scorer, but has yet to show that flair at his current level, and another has the potential to be a top 9 or maybe top 6 forward, and has done really well with his current team, then the second player will be placed higher on this list. Also, we are only including players that were drafted by the Red Wings, so Pontus Andreasson and Taro Hirose will not be on this list. With that being said, let's jump right into it. Coming in at number 15, we have Pascal Zito, the 2021 6th round draft selection for the Red Wings. He is a player that looks like the Red Wings might have been able to steal thanks to COVID. The season before being drafted, the 6-foot, 176-pound forward didn't play. COVID completely shut down the OHL where Zito plays, leading teams to not be able to see him and dropping him down the draft board because of his whole season lost of development and, once again, inability to see him play and how well he does against similar opponents. Zito put up 22 goals, 20 assists for 42 points in 49 games played this season, leading him to place 7th on the team in points as their assistant captain. Next season, Pascal Zito will 100% still be playing in the junior leagues, most likely with his Windsor Spitfires in the OHL, and should look to further elevate his game and be their scoring leader. Then make his way to Grand Rapids for at least a couple of seasons of development. He may be a ways away from even thinking of donning the winged wheel, but for a 6th round draft selection, this is only good news for Red Wings fans. Coming in at number 14, we have another player that benefited from the OHL shutdown, the 6'1", 194-pound Canadian defenseman selected in the 3rd round of the 2020 NHL entry draft, Donovan Sebrango. Because of the OHL being shut down, the Red Wings signed Sebrango to an entry-level contract and brought him into play in Grand Rapids and to continue development there. While he hasn't had crazy good numbers, his defensive presence and trust that the coaches have in him, even though he still would be a junior eligible player until the end of this season, is astounding. It's not too often, even if a defenseman goes through junior eligibility, that they can come in and play big minutes in an AHL club. Against his own age at the World Juniors this year, while it was only 2 games, he did have a goal, and it was pretty nice, I have to admit. Next season, look for Sebrango to start growing his offensive strengths in Grand Rapids. It's a possibility we see him in Detroit next season, but expect for a late season call-up or if injuries start piling up. Moving on to number 13, this player could very well go higher in this list, but his achievements and highest level of hockey, being a junior league, kept him down lower on the list for us. We are talking about Alex Cotton. Weighing in at 6 feet 2 inches, 190 pounds, the Canadian-born defenseman selected in the 5th round of the 2020 NHL entry draft. It's pretty amazing that he lasted all the way to the 5th round of the draft, considering he was over a point per game pace in the WHL as a defenseman before even being drafted. He pretty much stayed close to that pace for the remainder of his junior career, only going below this season with the Vancouver Giants and the Lethbridge Hurricanes before he was traded. However, in the playoffs, he has showed up big. So far at 16 points in 12 games played, he is 12th in scoring in the WHL and highest among defensemen in the WHL. It's clear that Cotton has the skills to be something special. I would expect him to sign an entry-level contract with the Red Wings in the offseason and to be playing in Grand Rapids in the fall. Moving on to number 12, we go across the pond for the first time in this list to Sweden to visit a player that many liked when he was selected in last year's draft in the 5th round. He is a Frölunda player. We are talking about none other than Liam Dower Nielsen. The young Swede standing at 6 feet 172 pounds, Dower Nielsen played most of the season on Frölunda's junior 20 team. He did play in the SHL for 10 games, but averaged only 4 minutes and 31 seconds a night. Needless to say, he wasn't getting much ice time in the SHL. During the season, Dower Nielsen recorded 19 goals, 31 assists for 50 points in 34 Junior 20 games. He's done all he can do at the Junior 20 level and will gear up to take on the SHL next season. Now, why is he here? Even though he put up fairly good numbers, I mean, he was 11th in points in the entire Junior 20 league. Well, this is more of what kind of potential he has. Dower Nielsen isn't a player that will blow you away with insane speed, hands, or shooting abilities. He instead dominates the game using his head and high hockey IQ. This is a skill that not many can use as effectively as he can, and if he can further refine that skill, and of course keep the rest of his abilities on par with his teammates and opponents, well, the Red Wings are going to have a really good player on the roster. Going to number 11, he has his own fan base. He's a defenseman standing at 6 feet, 165 pounds. I might regret putting him so low on this list. We are talking about the Finn, Emil Viro. Now, give me a second before you rush to the comments and tell me how I'm wrong in either direction. Looking at Viro's stats, they are horrifying in the regular season. Playing for TPS, he recorded half as many points as he did last season, and it's not like he had a pile of points to begin with either. However, looking at the playoffs, Viro showed up big, producing 5 points in 15 playoff games, actually putting him with the highest point per game average for defensemen on the team. Not to mention, he has one of the best plus minuses on the team, both in the regular season and in the playoffs. And if the puck is going into the opponent's net more often than the other way around when he is on the ice, that's a very good sign for a defenseman. Viro signed his entry-level contract with the Red Wings last offseason and was actually on loan with TPS this season and should be expected to come over to North America to play in Grand Rapids. Hopefully we can see Viro produce at a higher pace for the Griffins. I would expect at least a season or two of development before we start to see him make a case for an NHL roster spot. Going to number 10, we have one of the trio of players that played in Frölunda this season. We have a center standing at 5 feet 11 inches, weighing in at 172 pounds, selected in the second round of the 2020 NHL entry draft, Theodor Niederbach. Niederbach, of course, growing up in the Frölunda system, like a lot of our players, he got to play some time in the SHL the season before, but he got moved to the Hockey Eden League due to limited roster space and skill. This season was Niederbach's first full season in the SHL. Now, while he didn't blow anyone away, he did actually have a fairly good season, recording 9 goals, 7 assists for 16 points in 51 games played. This is of course with limited ice time, averaging a little bit over 10 minutes a game. Niederbach may have a little bit left to prove before earning an entry-level contract and coming over to North America, but he certainly has some skills and a hockey IQ you can't teach. He will be heading over to play for Rögle next season, and if they can work wonders on Moritz Seider and William Wallander, there is no reason that Niederbach can't break out with Rögle as well. We have sitting at number 9, we head back over to North America for a little bit. We have the 6'1", 172 pound Texas native Cross Hanas, or as some people nicknamed him, Crosscheck Hanas, which is awesome and somewhat fitting to his style of play. I mean, you could see in the 2020-21 season, he racked up 99 penalty minutes in 27 games played, and even this season he racked up the penalty minutes as well. But for as much he's in the penalty box, he's also on the score sheet a lot. I mean, 26 goals, 60 assists for 86 points and 63 games played, also adding in 9 points in 11 playoff games played. Good enough to put him first in the regular season and in the playoffs in terms of points for his team, and 9th in the total league. Hanas signed his entry-level contract earlier in the year and should absolutely be taking on the AHL this fall, assuming he can't force Stevie Y's hand into putting him into the NHL right now. He does have the potential to be a top 6 or top 9 forward one day, but we will see how he adjusts to playing against men first. Coming in at number 8, we have one of the University of Denver's trio that helped them bring home the championship, the San Diego native, standing in at 6 feet 3 inches, 209 pounds, it is Shai Buom. Taken just last year in the second round, he is known for his impressive skating ability despite being a big defenseman. In the NCAA for his freshman year, Buom recorded 3 goals, 15 assists for 18 points and 39 games played. so a little bit under half a point per game pace. During the 4 playoff games on the way to the NCAA championship, he was held to only a point, an assist coming in the championship game. Boom will definitely be back at the University of Denver, unlike fellow defenseman Antti Tuomisto, who will be heading back to Finland to play with TPS and continue his journey to the NHL from there. But going back to Boom, he will still be in Denver, and we should expect him to be there until he really starts to dominate, since the Wings have until the end of his senior year to sign him to an entry-level contract. So at number 7, we have...
They're here.
Oh, I'll be right back. How's it going, guys? We have grown a lot over the last year and a half, and we want to thank you guys for all of the support you've given Red Wing Nation. And we want to give you guys a way you can show your support. So we have designed these beautiful limited edition Detroit jerseys that you can buy fully custom with your name and number. And if you want to be the captain or the assistant captain, you can do that as well. We're only doing 5,000 total. So get them quick before they sell out. All funds raised are going towards supporting the channel and helping us make better content for you. We will also be making a Red Wing Nation jersey in the coming months that won't be limited edition, but still very cool. The link to our store will be in the description below. If you don't want the jersey but still want to support the channel, we have lots of other exciting products, so make sure to check it out. Alright, going back to our top 15 prospects. Coming in at number 7, we have also coming from the University of Denver, selected in the 2021 NHL entry draft as an overager. He joined Tuomisto and Boom at the University of Denver after serving as captain for his junior team in the USHL last season, Carter Mazur. He went on to be one of the highest producing freshmen in the NCAA, tying for third in points, and of course helped the team to win the national championship. His ability to produce as well as he does, even though he just entered the NCAA, and of course his very gritty, get under the skin of your opponent's style of play, means that not only should the Red Wings eventually expect to see him don the wing wheel, he should be a fan favorite when he does. In terms of when he'll be making his way into Detroit, that remains to be seen. It's unlikely he will sign his entry-level contract this offseason, which is fine. We have until the end of the 2024-25 season to sign him. If he can continue his offensive production and keep helping them win games the way he has, I would expect to see him sooner rather than later. Maybe another season or two of development, and then depending on how much he is dominating, either straight into the NHL or a season of development in Grand Rapids. Moving on to number 6, we are heading back across the pond to Europe, to a team that housed Seider, where he broke out and became the force he is today. Yes, the 6'4", 190-pound defenseman, William Wallinder. Selected in the 2020 NHL entry draft for his amazing skating abilities and overall lots of raw talent that needed to be refined. He struggled the season after being drafted, playing in the Modo organization on the Junior 20 and Hockey Allsvenskan team. He decided to go over to Rögle to continue developing last offseason. And it was obviously the right decision. He recorded 4 goals, 15 assists for 19 points in 47 games played, and tying for the lead in U20 scoring. As of right now, he is unsigned by the Red Wings, and I would expect that he will be spending another season in Sweden before coming over to North America to most likely play at least a season in the AHL. Alright, so 5 remain. I'm sure most know who is in the top 5, just not where they are positioned. Nonetheless, coming in at number 15, we have the Swedish giant, Elmer Soderblom. Taken as a 6th round draft selection in Yzerman's first draft, he has certainly had a journey. First dominating the Junior 20 League, not that far off from how Dower Nielsen did this season, and now recording 21 goals, 12 assists for 33 points in 52 games played, just 2 years later. Leading Frölunda in goal scoring by a large margin, and recording the most points by a U21 player in the SHL. Soderblom has outgrown the Frölunda organization, and while he is currently unsigned by the Red Wings, all signs point to him signing his entry-level contract and coming over to North America and either playing in Grand Rapids or Detroit. I wouldn't be surprised either way. Soderblom's size and goal-scoring ability might help revitalize the power play. But Yzerman also takes his time with his players, so he may opt to have him play a season in Grand Rapids to further develop his skills and get used to the North American game. Moving on to number 4 on this list, we have one of everyone's favorite prospects. Selected in the second round of the 2019 NHL Draft and recent SHL champion, we are talking about Albert Johansson. Growing up in the Farjestad organization and breaking into the SHL the season after being drafted, he has been a top scoring for his age in the SHL every year, coming in second for defensemen as a U19 and U20 player and leading all U21 defensemen this year. He is currently signed by the Red Wings to his entry-level contract and will definitely be heading over to North America this year. There is a very good chance we could see Johansson breaking onto the opening night roster. There is also a very real possibility that Yzerman opts for him to spend some more time in Grand Rapids. Either way, Johansson is going to help revitalize the left-hand side on defense a lot when he comes into Detroit. Breaking into the top 3, we have the lone goalie on this list, standing at 6 feet 6 inches, weighing in at 209 pounds. The Canadian native Sebastian Cossa played his entire junior career for the Edmonton Oil Kings. He had a monster season before being drafted, recording a 9.41 save percentage in 19 games played. This season has been a little bit rougher. Now, I'll admit, I think when Cossa played his single game in the prospect tournament and was pretty much blown out, I think this season, Yzerman and the goalie development team had Cossa work on certain skills, and that might be why his stats are hurting a little bit. Even though he still had a save percentage good enough to tie for 4th in the league, and even though his playoff stats have taken a hit after a rough last couple games, but he is still 10 wins and 3 shutouts in 11 playoff games. Cossa is signed by the Red Wings and should be playing for Grand Rapids come this fall. He is still likely 2 to 3 seasons away from challenging for a roster spot on the NHL roster. Very different from our number 2 prospect, who seems likely to play in Detroit this fall. Coming in at number 2, we have the only prospect on this list from the Holland era, selected just a few spots after Joe Veleno. We have the Grand Rapid Griffin, Jonathan Berggren. He has done all he needs to do to make himself an NHL candidate, and much like Seider last offseason, it would be difficult to see him not making the NHL roster. After dominating the SHL, especially for his age, he came over to North America and spent a season with the Griffins, where he broke the Griffins' rookie record for points in a season and became the only Griffin rookie to lead the team in points, recording a total 21 goals, 43 assists for 64 points in 70 AHL games played. So, why is Berggren so high on this list? Well, he's kind of a special player. The season he was dominating the SHL, he was interviewed and he said that he sees the ice and everything happening in front of him a lot slower than most people, and that allows him to make plays at a much higher speed. Now, obviously he can't slow down time, but it's clear he can make high-end plays at a high-end pace. His playmaking ability should definitely boost the Red Wings offense and help the power play as well. Expect him to be playing in the top 6 or top 9, and possibly on the top power play line, playing on the sideboards. Now, why is he not the number 1 prospect on this list? Well, Berggren is good and a very rare kind of player. Number 1 is an even rarer kind of player that will change and affect the team a lot more than Berggren will. I'm sure you know who it is by now. Sitting at number 1, we have the most recent 6th overall pick, 6'5", 207 pound, Frölunda defenseman, finalist for the Rookie of the Year in the SHL, and received the Elite Prospects Award, which goes to the top junior player in the SHL, Simon Edvinsson. After being a scrutinized pick for his not great decision making and overall inconsistent abilities he showed the year before being drafted, when he was on his game, he was a defenseman that could arguably challenge Seider for a top spot. When he was off his game, well, he definitely wasn't a player that you would want to take in the first or second round of the draft. As history would have it, of course, Yzerman goes on and selects him at 6, and this season he broke out, not only playing in the SHL, but becoming Frölunda's top defender and playing upwards of 20 plus minutes a night. and tying for the lead in U20 scoring as a U19 defenseman. He cleaned up his play, becoming very consistent in what kind of player you're going to get night in, night out. Showed off his incredible skating ability. I mean, he floats around the rink like a 6-foot forward, not a 6'5" defenseman. He has great gap control and good defensive IQ, and if he needs to, he can throw the body as well. Although he is considered a two-way defender, I think he fits into the scheme as more of an offensive defender. Think of like a flashy Moritz Seider. When will he be in the NHL? Well, surprisingly, as much as I say that Yzerman likes to take his time with his prospects, it appears Yzerman and the Red Wings front office think that Edvinsson will be able to make the NHL in this upcoming season. In terms of what I think, he seems to be in the same position Lucas Raymond was last offseason, where you could make the argument over him taking one more season to further develop his high-end skills, or putting him in the NHL right now to help out the Detroit Red Wings. What do you guys think? What is your top 15, top 10, top 5 prospects for the Red Wings? Who did we have in the right place? Who did we have in the wrong place? Let us know down below. Red Wing Nation was designed and created to be a community of Red Wings fans that can come together and talk about all things Red Wings. If you like this video, make sure you drop a like. That way we make more content that you like. And lastly, if you are a Red Wings fan, if you are a hockey fan, if you are just a great person, make sure you subscribe and join this wonderful community. And until next time, lights out in the Red Light District.